This episode is sponsored by Victory Grips. Victory Grips are the standard in hand protection, plus they just launched their new gym affiliate program. As affiliate owners, they understand the demands of gym owners. Their goal is to keep their gym referral program process as simple as possible. You'll receive educational content, early access to upcoming releases, and exclusive discounts for your members, plus received a percentage of the net sales. Find out more at victorygrips.com.
Welcome to the Power Monkey Podcast, where we chat with the best in the world of fitness about what they do. I'm your host, Dave Durante, with my co-host, Mike Service, and on today's episode, we have Alethea Boon. She is a 5-time CrossFit Games competitor, 3 times as an individual, once as part of a team, and once as a masters athlete. Prior to her CrossFit career, she had an incredible gymnastics career for her native country of New Zealand, where she competed at the 1998 and 2002 Commonwealth Games, and also went on to compete for Bringham Young University. 20 years after her first Commonwealth Games appearance, she returned in 2018 to compete for New Zealand again, but this time in the sport of weightlifting. Absolutely incredible. One of the most interesting athletic journeys we've heard of in a really long time. She has entered a new phase of her life as a mom, but continues to push herself physically as a cast member of the show Gladiators in Australia, which is a take on the American show American Gladiators. Her ability to reinvent herself as an athlete and continue to be at the top of so many different physical endeavors is truly remarkable. She has a fantastic perspective on fitness and keeping active. We hope this episode will get you as pumped as it did for us. Enjoy.
Well, Alethea, how are you doing? Thank you so much for taking the time. We were just talking off the air about the 4 of us being on opposite sides of the world and all different time zones. So we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I'm pretty excited to have a chat.
Absolutely. So, I mean, a lot to get through and a lot to go over with your impressive credentials and impressive life, but we got to start where it all started on the gymnastics side, because I think we do have some mutual overlapping in terms of competitions and maybe even some mutual friends, considering that you went to college in the States and competed in the same general area as I did around the same years. What years were you at BYU?
I was at BYU, I think it was 2004 to 2008.
Okay, so you were right after I was there, but we used to go compete at BYU all the time. You know, they had a really strong men's program. Unfortunately, it was dropped while I was right after college. Did they have a men's program while you were there at all, or was it already gone?
No, it was just before I got there.
Okay, well, we loved going to compete there. They had such a strong community. Obviously, some great history there with guys like Guard Young going through the program and being famous Olympian, silver medalist, and Makoto Sakamoto being the coach out there, and just such a great history with the men's program. What was it like going from your part of the world, having been born in Fiji, growing up in New Zealand, and then going to Provo, Utah? What's that like to go from those extremes to Provo, Utah?
You know, I actually chose Provo, Utah purely because I had family in the area. So that was to try and make the transition a little bit easier. But in terms of like just going from small New Zealand to big America, no matter where you are, it was a wee bit of a culture shock. But in terms of the gymnastics side of things, oh my word, the best experience I could have ever asked for. Gymnastics is an individual sport, but college being such a team-oriented thing, it really, really brought me out of my shell, and I absolutely loved the experience.
And that's one of the things that we've talked about on here too. Like, I completely agree with gymnastics being so much more of a team sport than people kind of maybe give it credit for, and to prepare you for being on a team. Like maybe some things you've learned that you're applying now to your current team, being on a Gladiator, which we'll get to, but you came from having individual success prior to coming to BYU, having competed at the Commonwealth Games a bunch of times, which is such an enormous competition. And the Olympic Games was an interesting one for you. And I wanted to touch on your experience at the Olympic Games. Can you tell us a little bit about what your experience was like in Sydney in 2000?
Yeah, so I actually didn't get to compete and I didn't get to travel as an athlete. I was a traveling alternative. So for me, that's a bit of a sticky point and a sore point in my sporting career. It's probably one of my biggest, not so much regrets, but a little bit of a disappointment. And I think that's actually what fueled my CrossFit career. That that disappointment that I felt back then actually fueled me to think, okay, I don't want history to repeat. I want to put in the best effort I can every day to try and just not have that feeling of letting myself down. It's a weird thing.
I wasn't trying to bait you into that question, but
No,
since
it's just a natural answer. It's like everyone asks me, oh yeah, was it a great experience? You were an alternate. I'm like, you know what? You always want to compete. You don't actually want to be the person on the sideline.
yeah,
So for me, that was it was actually a fire starter for, I guess, the next part of life.
I love that because, I was in a very similar boat in '08. I was one of the reserve athletes in Beijing and, very difficult, huge up and downs in terms of how that all played out. But were you anticipating being part of the team? Did something happen in the selection that kind of didn't go in your favor? What came to be that you were not actually a participating member of the team in Sydney?
Yeah, so we actually only got one individual spot coming out of our region. Um, you know the process to qualify for Olympics, you've got to qualify like a year out. And to get that spot, I was actually injured a year out. I had a back injury, so I couldn't train as well as I wanted to. And it's not an excuse, it's just the reality of the situation. And I couldn't put forth the best effort, and I didn't deserve the spot, but I got the alternate spot. Um, Going into that Olympic year, however, you always have to stay ready. And I had peaked that year, and I was gutted that I couldn't put what I had, the product I had, on show. So yeah, it's just the way it works. You work, I don't know, 16 years to make one competition, and unfortunately, injury happened 1 year out, and it just wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, it is gutting, and we talked about this a lot leading into the Tokyo Games of all the athletes that had peaked for 2020, and then COVID happened, and them have to try and re-peak or again for 2021. How devastating that is. I don't think people really appreciate what it's like to be an Olympic athlete trying to peak for an event every 4 years, as opposed to CrossFit Games or any other major league sport where you have a yearly chance to show off your skills.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different place in terms of you being able to be at the right time, at the prime of your life, ready to go.
There's very little room for error in that whole periodization block.
Yeah.
And when you absolutely just don't crush it when it's needed, it's soul crushing. It's absolutely soul crushing. And to have to try and channel that to stay ready to be a reserve, oh my word. That's a different level of emotion.
You used it as fuel, as you said, and I think this is really important and something that our listeners and everyone else out there looking to achieve high-level things can get out of it is you said, okay, didn't go my way. I trained my entire life for this one moment, and it didn't go the way that I had played it out probably a million times in my head. But you can kind of go two directions there, right? You can say, okay, clearly I'm upset at the world, and this is just not meant to be. And instead, you decided, okay, I'm going to use this as fire for another area of fitness. And was it around that same time that you were trying to figure out what you wanted to do with yourself physically? I mean, you went to college and you decided, okay, I'm going to use the collegiate outlet as the next phase. But how long until you said, you know what, CrossFit is an area where I can really excel and really show that I'm able to compete at the top of a particular sport?
You know what's funny is, so I was 16 when all that happened. I only went to college when I was 21. And then I used college as to have fun. I don't think I had fun as an elite gymnast. I think it was purely like I was driven to achieve things, achieve these milestones, tick them off, get them done, and, try to make the ultimate stage. In college, I got to enjoy the product of the training from all those years. And then I retired from gymnastics after uni. I finished pretty late, and then I went through a little bit of a health bout. I had pulmonary embolism, so clots in my lungs. I was rendered pretty much useless for like a good year and a half. And it wasn't until then where I couldn't actually use my body. I could barely walk by the time I got out of hospital. I actually thought, okay, I'd like to try and just do something. So I started running or walking from my house to the letterbox, my letterbox to the next post, the next goal post the next day. Eventually, after about 6 months to a year, I got to run a half marathon. Then I got bored of running. That's when I actually Googled a different way to get fit, and I started CrossFit. And I purely started CrossFit as a way to try and challenge myself mentally. I did not want to lift heavy weights. I did not want to get big and bulky. I was still in the gymnastics mindset of, I want to be petite, I want to be slim, I just want to look good, and I wanted to eat. So I like eating. So CrossFit was a way to just be able to allow me to go out and enjoy meals. But I started CrossFit purely, it was not to compete at all, just to get fit. I joined the on-ramp program at CrossFit Active back in the day, and you're supposed to stay in there for like a week and then move into classes. I stayed in there for a month purely because I wanted to learn how to move a barbell, how to move a dowel, how to do the basics. When I first started CrossFit, I could shoulder to overhead body weight, but I couldn't squat body weight. So to me, it was just, okay, well, let's learn a new skill. Let's try and, get a little bit stronger. And then it wasn't until someone actually told me I probably wouldn't be good enough to make the competitive class that I decided, oh, okay, no, I don't like that. Let me just show you what I've got. And then within the year, I'd made the team to go to the CrossFit Games.
Oh my God, Mike, I want you to jump in there in a second, but can you reiterate one more time? You said that the foundations class was meant to be done for a week and you decided on your own to stay for a month. I want every person out there to appreciate the fact that she put a self-imposed month foundations class in place to help understand. This is from a person who was at the highest level in gymnastics and understood the importance of technique. Did that extra time really help you? I mean, more along the lines of, would you recommend that same thing for the everyday person out there that is just starting off the street? How much time do you really think it takes for them to be able to understand how to do those movements correctly?
Yeah, so I truly believe that foundational month in nailing the basics, learning how to move a dowel really well, and staying on the lightest kettlebell, the lightest dumbbell, the lightest wall ball, actually built good movement patterns. And then even when I moved into classes for the first 4 or 5 months, I still stayed really, really light. I only put 2.5 kilos on each side, but I moved well and I moved fast. And I think that put me in good standing, like with Olympic lifting and all the technical side of things, to be able to progress. I was super, super weak as well. So that's why I decided technique was going to be my friend if I'm going to stay in this for a long time and do this fitness regime for ages. And that definitely paid off.
I love it. Mike, did you hear she said she did not find value in barbell? That's really the only thing I heard for the first 15 minutes is there's no value in barbell lifting. But
yeah, no, Dave's not going to be able to have you completely on the gymnastics side the whole time. So no. I know you have some prowess in the weightlifting realm, but I am curious. Yeah, you said you came in kind of weak, and I would imagine a lot of that had to do with the sickness and having spent time in hospital and yeah, I guess an extended time out of really being active and in sport. And I'm just thinking that was probably a little bit of like in hindsight, a gift of an opportunity in terms of coming in and learning all the new pieces, because from our perspective, a lot of times former high-level athletes come in with so much body awareness and maybe excessive strength in different areas that they can move poorly where they could move better if they were a little weaker and had to learn the process. So I'm thinking, just knowing, fast forwarding some years when we get there, like you're a very good weightlifter. And I feel like that was a cool opportunity where you almost got to learn the barbell as if you were a child learning at a younger age and having to really learn how your body moves and connect some dots. So that's going to connect some strings and themes for us, I think, as we get through, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dave, we're not at weightlifting yet, so I'm going to let gymnastics continue to dominate for a little while, but I know we're going to get there.
Well, shoulder and overhead more than you can squat is definitely a common
Sounds
theme.
like Dave.
Oh yeah, I still can't squat as much as I can overhead. So a common theme amongst gymnasts in general, not just male gymnasts, but definitely a theme amongst all gymnasts. So I feel your pain when it comes to that. But clearly you did take a path that led you to a third Commonwealth Games. And I think this is where Mike can jump in. You did 2 at gymnastics, 98 and 2002, and then a 16-year jump to get back to the Commonwealth Games again in a new sport of weightlifting. I mean, if there's someone that epitomizes CrossFit, it's you. You are at the top of the game when it comes to 2 of the most important pillars of the CrossFit world. But was that like going back to college as like Tommy boy, a ninth year senior, and going back and seeing all these kids again and being like, I've been here. I know exactly what this whole thing is all about. Like, what is that 16-year jump like to go back and do it all over again in a new sport?
Yeah, I definitely felt like a grandma. um, yeah, first time I went, I was literally the youngest person on our New Zealand team. I just turned 14. I was a deer in the headlights. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't handle the competition well. I let the pressure get to me and I buckled. Fast forward that, 20 years after my first appearance, I got to go in absolutely appreciating and being able to take in every single moment that happened. I got to appreciate the opening ceremony, and I knew that every time I stepped on that stage, it doesn't define who I am. In fact, it just enhances my experience of life. And I wanted to be present absolutely every moment. And I have to admit, that particular competition in Commonwealth Games, you know how they say that you find a state of flow when everything just clicks and you don't even realize it's happening, your body's just taking over? That's the first time I'd ever experienced that feeling. I got to enjoy every single moment. I let the body take over, and I hit a platform PB, which is really, really good for me. And what people didn't know was that before that, about 12 weeks before, I had partially torn my post-tib tendon in my left ankle. So that whole meaning of taking the platform and PBing after a ridiculous injury that should have sidelined me completely, and I should have had a fused ankle and not be doing what I'm doing today, just had that level of gratitude and appreciation. And again, a realization that, sporting life isn't over. Fitness isn't over. You can find ways to evolve. You can find ways to grow. You've just got to be willing to put in a little bit of hard yards and chase that feeling. So every day I go into the gym now, I'm just chasing that feeling of feeling good. And, one day, hopefully I'll get that state of flow again in a competition setting to be able to just enjoy.
I want Mike to jump in and ask some questions about the weightlifting, but there's a really important concept in there that I would appreciate hearing more on, and someone I wish would have told me. But your 14-year-old self, 1998, first time competing, whole world is on your shoulders, performing for your country, and it didn't go your way because maybe you were overthinking. You don't want to let people down, all the things that kind of end up getting into the mind, take away from good performance. Fast forward 20 years, you're there, you're in that flow state, life experiences have happened. Is there anything that you think would have been told to you at 14 years old that would have allowed you to get into a state to just perform? Or do you think it's an experience thing? I just need to go through it. I need to figure it out and then be able to be on a platform because I've gone through these steps. Just thinking about it from the person who's trying to go up and be like you, is there something you can pass along and say, hey, don't worry about the process. Just worry about, the best you can do. But I don't know if those things work. I'm curious from your perspective, is experience the only thing that allows you to prepare for that moment?
Yeah, I do feel like experience is definitely something that you need to go through to be able to get that hindsight and then use that hindsight to put it into your own experience. I do wish that someone back then somehow took that pressure away from me. We didn't have much support back then. I feel like I've came from the dark ages of sport, but we didn't have that. It's almost like someone just saying, what you are doing doesn't define you. All you're doing is trying to be the best that you can be in any given moment. And I wish someone told me that back then. So it took away the pressure of, oh, don't fall from the beam, instead of, how about let's just do the best that we can absolutely do and try to enjoy what you're doing. I think once you put enjoyment factor into it, results fall into place. Back then, I would have just pushed that enjoyment factor a lot more. The drive to work was there. The pressure to perform just got to me. So if someone could have just told me back then, go out, enjoy the work that you've put in, express yourself on the world stage. Let people see how good you are. Don't try to be good. Let people see how good you are. I think that would have changed the narrative internally to be able to get out there and just, do what we know we can do.
Yep. I love that. Mike, do you want to jump in with some of your... We'll give you like a couple of minutes to talk about weightlifting, and then we'll get back to the real agenda.
No, you have me so interested in so many things, and weightlifting is important, but I think life is maybe a little more important. So I'm actually really, really curious. Um, we know you have a little one now, and
Yeah.
I think that's a big motivation for you. And just from a little bit of our following of you and researching a little, I think your pregnancy was not the easiest thing in the world. Um, and now getting a little bit of hindsight of, I guess, your development and growing up in, let's say, three sports: gymnastics, CrossFit, and even weightlifting. Nothing seemed easy about any of those.
No.
So I'd love to know, like, what was it like, let's say, finding out you're pregnant and then seeing other people of like a similar sport background,
Mhm.
physicality level, and how they handled it compared to what it was for you.
Yeah, my goodness. You know how they say some people have like really beautiful pregnancies? It's amazing. You'll feel amazing. That was not me. I found out I was pregnant. I was really, really happy. I mean, I'm a little bit older on the spectrum of, starting a family. Um, my body felt things a lot more. I was what I call ugly pregnant, which is totally fine because it's a part of the process. I gained 30 kilos during my pregnancy, not because I was eating excessively. I had a ridiculous amount of fluid. I couldn't function well. I was vomiting from start to the day I gave birth. Um, it was just, it was a hard journey to go through. And seeing other people in a similar, similar backgrounds or similar sporting level go through their pregnancy and absolutely, look like they're thriving and enjoying it and embracing every moment, great for them. I was not that person. I was struggling internally and I wasn't afraid to say it because, believe it or not, when I shared my struggles and how hard the process was and letting go of your previous athlete self to now dealing with an older pregnancy, um, it opened a lot more communication with other mothers that actually felt the same and was felt safe to be able to express it. Because there's a stigma out there that you should appreciate being pregnant, and yes, absolutely you should. I mean, it's a blessing. Not many people get to experience it. Well, people get to experience it, but some aren't fortunate enough, and I'm grateful for that. However, I don't have to like it. I don't have to enjoy the process, and that's okay.
That's yeah. I mean, obviously, Dave and I are not mothers, so we don't relate completely. Dave's got two little daughters and has definitely been a
Yeah.
big part of some pregnancies that I've been fortunate enough to look at from the sidelines. And of course, from my perspective, some of it is like the mentality of it, and maybe somebody's listening or some of our listeners are in these similar situations, but um what you see others go through is not always what you're going to go through. And what you have gone through maybe sometimes helps as you progress through life. So I just keep coming back to, what you're talking about with wanting to be, competing at the Olympics. And then, that doesn't quite work out the way that you want it. But something comes from it. And then
Yeah.
something comes from that. And I'm curious now that you've gotten through, let's say, one part of that, bringing a beautiful life into the world and in maybe not the most beautiful times for you. What's some perspective that you've gained now from that?
um, what I've gained is that the fact that no matter what you're going through, you can always find a way. And if you can't find a way to fix it, you can find a way to get through. And sometimes just getting through is a win. And I think understanding that it's okay not to have everything perfect releases a lot of pressure to be able to
Mm.
just move on with life and keep progressing forward. And I think that's what I always push is like, you don't have to pursue a win. You don't have to pursue success. You just have to pursue growth. So if you can find a way to grow out of a situation, that's a win.
Yeah, definitely. And you said it earlier, like somebody talking to the younger you, 14, like the ability to take some pressure off, be in the moment, do the best you can in that moment. I think you're explaining a lot of that in learning processes, and you're able to, of course, impart some wisdom probably for some other people, and hopefully they can learn through you. But it's fun. It's fun, I guess, for us as athletes to just hear you speak out some of the things that we probably all feel in different moments. So there's a lot of stuff that maybe people, the circles that we run in, like, embrace the suck, or you should love, everything and all the time, and you're so fortunate to get to do that or whatever. But yeah, some stuff you just don't like to do, you don't want to
Yeah.
do, and that's okay, especially when you put a purpose at the end of it. I think you, of course, highlight it the most when the purpose is, bringing a little one into the world. Like that makes a lot of meaning into something. But I like hearing you be pretty open with all of this process. That's really really cool from my perspective.
Yeah, there's no facade. I think when you take away the facade, you just be your authentic self, and it just opens up so much more conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dave, it's kind of cool when things connect for us. We get to talk to a lot of people in what we do, and then even on the podcast when we bring in different friends and different people to talk to. But a common theme lately, we had Fisa Gaffi on recently, and then a
Love
couple
her.
other guests. And just that there's this common theme, and maybe I don't know, we're getting really fortunate, getting really like good, genuine people on. But this ability to define yourself by more than just a moment, more than just being a certain athlete. It's this almost ability to kind of step outside of yourself and observe a little bit, and then come back in and act how you should. So you're just continuing this theme that we've been really lucky with lately to be able to interview, and I think the listeners are hopefully enjoying this as much as we are. Dave, that
Yeah.
that was my weightlifting. That was about as much as I wanted to go into the barbell.
All right. Well done, Mike. You brought up, motherhood, and I had been talking my wife Sadie. We were talking about this a little bit earlier today. She's like, "Should I jump on? Do I have questions to ask? I want to know." And the reality is that her pregnancy, especially the second one, was very challenging, and it puts a strain on everyone around you, not just your relationships. And we had another little. Our first daughter was around that we were trying to take care of, and I think sometimes people get a false sense of how challenging some of these things really are because social media has a tendency to, make things look more glamorous than maybe they really are.
It's the
But
highlight reels of life.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You know what I mean? So to be able to put a real perspective on um, some things in life that maybe need it, and just that, hey, I'm a real person too. I might be on TV and I might be a top tier athlete, but I'm going through the same things you are. It just gives a little bit more of an accurate glimpse as to what life is all about. But you said something in there that I appreciate. I want to highlight again. Another podcast I was listening to recently, we're talking about how we achieve kind of high level success, and it has to do with small pursuits. And I think we all kind of have our own phrase for these things. But it was well put by this one person I was listening to that we're talking about progress compounded, and how it's such an important thing to be able to take a small step towards a larger goal. With you, with everything you're doing, is it like, if I can get through today, tomorrow will be better? With these extreme challenges with childbirth, or learning a new skill, or trying to go and be a podium athlete at the games. How do you approach long-term goals? Is it something that you try to chip away at with that idea of pride in process and progress compounded? Curious from your perspective, when you're trying to approach something so vast and so massive, how you approach it on a daily basis.
Yeah. I like that saying, a little by little becomes a lot. And usually I will start out. So once I gave birth, I think I set down under as a challenge to try and qualify as an individual, just for a fitness goal for me. I always have to have something to work towards, but I would always go team. What I did with that goal is I actually wrote it down. I put it away. I folded it up and put it away so I couldn't see it, but I made a plan. I made a plan to try and get there. And my actual plan wasn't anything brilliant. It was, after my pregnancy, 12 weeks out after, I would show up to the gym every day and do something. So first few weeks, it was literally just going in and doing breath work. And then I would build up and do a class, try and do 2 classes a week, 3 classes a week. And then it wasn't until 12 weeks out from the qualifiers that I was able to actually follow a structured training plan that I'd put together for myself. But for me, it's that, get that big goal, shelve it, put the plan in place. So all you see is that plan, and you see the little things, the day by day, the weekly, and then the monthly reassess. But that's my process that I've done ever since. I think I did it naturally as a child once I got injured after every injury. And then as an adult now, I've been able to just kind of fine tune that so that anything that comes up, I do the same process. I have a goal, I write it down, I shelve it, put it aside, but I work to the plan. And then if I work to that plan, maybe I'll get that goal. So I have to always be real. I might not ever achieve that goal, but the aim is to work to a plan to try. And I think you've just got to keep trying. I think anytime you stop trying, life gets boring for me. So I'm just going to keep trying and figuring out some new adventure to try and, keep things interesting, keep the brain sharp.
I mean, that is such an important thing for listeners and everyone to hear, is that set an extremely lofty goal for yourself.
Yeah.
Whether or not you achieve that goal does not matter. It's so important. I think people think either if I'm a failure if I don't achieve that lofty goal. The amount of things that you're going to learn about yourself and that you're going to achieve along the way is incredibly important to who you are as a person. And I think that's sometimes lost. It's an all or nothing approach. Either I win an Olympic gold medal or I end up at the podium, or I'm nothing. And that is completely the wrong way to approach it. And I guarantee you, if you try to achieve any goal that's worth pursuing, what you learn along the way and the person that you become is what's going to stick with you. And so I'm so glad that you highlighted that, because I think every listener really needs to appreciate that goal setting is not about so much achieving that goal, but what you learn along the way.
Absolutely. It's the mental fortitude, the tenacity that you build along the way. It just makes the journey that much more rewarding. I think as I look back, I think from my 2016 year where I ruptured my Achilles at the CrossFit Games to making it back to 2017 within the year wasn't because it was outcome focused. It was purely effort focused and just trying to chip away little by little, day by day. The games was never the goal. It was always to just do the open as a scaled athlete and be happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely surpassed that purely because I was just trying to be the best I could every single day.
So CrossFit right now, just got to ask, this is being recorded, open week. Are you planning on participating? What are the goals with the competitive fitness side of things right now?
Yeah, so last year I got to do the open. I think I was 9 weeks out from having baby. So I was very, very moving very slowly and very gingerly. I think I managed to get toes to bar that week, and I did 50 singles. So my goal this year is to beat last year. But in saying that, I always train to a level that I feel like I'm feeling good and pushing myself mentally. With the open this year, I do have a goal to actually just try and qualify through the quarterfinals as an individual to Torium Pro. Whether I attend Torium Pro, I'm not sure, but I want to try. I'm in the 40-year-old category, so trying to go up against the young bucks will be pretty challenging. But you know what? I'm up for a challenge, and I think that'll be fun to just tick off and be like, okay.
Love it. I'm sure you're going to kick ass. I'm going to be excited to watch that progress. Mike, you look like you want to jump in and challenge to an open finish.
Definitely not. No, definitely not that. No challenges. No, maybe I was getting excited because I had like a corny segue into my next question, and you're talking about all these processes and steps and having such a really let's say strategic way that you go about things. And I'm pretty sure that's your superpower on the TV show that you're on now is strategy. So we have to talk about this. So from now on, especially because I'm a little jealous. I saw your hair when you turned. You got the cool green hair in there. I think we have the same hairstyle, and I need to get some green in mine.
Some color in there.
We're gonna start calling you Electra for a little while now.
Yes.
And so Australian Gladiator. Jordan had this question. Did you get to pick your name, Electra? Like, was that gifted to you? Did you choose it? What's the story?
No, I did not get to pick my name. That name was assigned to me by the gladiator gods.
Okay.
Yeah, Electra was just assigned to me, but it actually managed to be quite a bit of a natural fit because Electra was fiery. She moves quite stealthily, and every now and then she'd come up with some shocking one-liners, and some of them were absolutely terrible. I'm not going to lie, but it was a hell of a lot of fun.
No, no, I want to go
man.
take this back a step.
Yeah.
Do they show the original American Gladiators out there? Were you a fan of American Gladiators growing up? Did you know
Massive
about?
fan, massive fan.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, huge fan of Gladiators. I remember watching Hang Tough and thinking,
Oh yeah.
damn, I would love to get up on those rings and give it a go. And I actually got to live out my childhood dream. So that pyramid and the wall, which were all the events that I thoroughly enjoyed, I got to get up and give it a go. One thing I was not prepared for was the tackling aspect of things. So
Hmm.
my partner and my training partner in CrossFit, who's a judo boss, had to teach me how to tackle like just before going on the show.
Now, a lot of the events look similar to the original events. Jordan and I were watching some of the videos of you guys on the pyramid, just like launching people from like the top tier of that. I don't know if it looks fun or completely frightening out of your mind, but like that looks potentially seriously dangerous. Is it ever led to anything dangerous for you?
Um, no, so it's really, really padded. It's super, super soft. If you think about it, when you're falling from like a high bar and you land on your stomach, it's pretty much the same, if not safer, because it's so soft. I think the contenders had more of a harder time than we did, for sure. It was hard for them. I mean, you're coming up to someone who's got an advantage. They really had very little hope to get to the top. But I think the only thing we had trouble with was a wee bit of orientation as you're going down. So usually in gymnastics, you try and spot something to get your bearings. On this, you couldn't get your bearings at all. So you literally scramble, try to look, see where you are, and then scramble back up the pyramid again. But no, it wasn't as dangerous as it looks. It's definitely a hell of a lot of fun.
There was an event back in the day, Mike, I'll let you jump in, but I was just such a
Oh,
fan of American Gladiators back in the day. There was an event where they had like all of the gladiator was up on a stage and had like this tennis ball shooter, this gun that would just
Yeah,
shoot
love
tennis
this one.
balls, and
Yes.
then you had to be behind barriers and you had your own
yeah.
like different various contraptions to shoot at the gladiator or shoot at a target. Is that one of the events? I love that event. Is that one of the events that you guys actually have or not?
No, no, that's not one of the events
No.
this time around. Yeah.
I love that event. We got to bring that one back for sure. Um, have you watched the documentaries? Are they?
I have, yeah, I do
Yeah.
watch the documentaries, yeah, and definitely not about that partying life.
I was
Wasn't
gonna
that
say
kind of story?
similar to the '90s, or a little different. Your lifestyle from what those guys were going through.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot more controlled this time around. I'm sure there's lots of laws around health and safety that we had to adhere to. The cast was absolutely amazing, bringing together 13 absolutely different individuals from different codes and different sporting backgrounds. You'd think there'd be a little bit of conflict, zero conflict. It was all about a team that came together and worked towards one common goal. And I think that was pretty unique. I've never experienced something like that. We're still very close now. Um, the whole experience was an absolute whirlwind. It's as physical as the documentary show. It
Hmm.
is very, very physical. There is no sandbagging. If you sandbag, you get hurt. So you have to go all in. People think, is it rigged? It's not rigged. We're in there. Like what you see in real time is what's happening. We're dealing with what's in front of us. And the physicality of it is pretty taxing.
I have a question. How much time did you have? First of all, two-part question. Um, long time listener, first time caller. How many events would you have to do? Did you get to choose which events you got to do? And how much time did you have between like these events that you had to compete against these contenders for?
So in the world of television, it's all on their timing. So setup, camera setup, equipment setup takes a lot of time. So between events, there was a wee bit of time. You would get 1 to 2 events a day, but around that, you've got filming happening constantly. So although it may not be physical challenges all day long, the mental drain that it takes to be on and sharp for however many hours it took to get it done, that was pretty draining. As draining as it was for us, the contenders that stepped on the show, frick, they did a good job, because that's a long day for them to be doing 5 events. So kudos to them.
You guys are like physical specimens, you know, you're just incredible athletes and great at what you do. Are there any contestants out there that really have a legitimate shot at this thing? Because I remember watching it and it's like the reason why people remember who watch the show, they remember Wesley Two Scoops Berry, is because he was an outlier and he was like this one contestant over the course of like years of that show being on that was actually any good. Did you guys come across athletes and contestants that actually could compete with you, or was this just like, hey, an everyday Joe who likes to go run on the weekends and just gets tossed around for an episode because it's fun to watch?
You get a bit of both. There's the contenders that come on all have really good stories, really good inspirational stories that, you know, it's essentially there to try and inspire people to get off their couch and move, right? But we had legit contenders. I think since the show's already been released, we had a contender who is really small but absolutely fierce, who had the banter of an absolute boss, but didn't quite make it at the end. And the person that got through is actually someone who's trialing for like Olympic bobsled. So she's a legit athlete. We had AFL players who came in who actually knew how to tackle, came in to actually give us a good run. And we were challenged. We were absolutely challenged. People lost shoes on the wall. People lost their pants climbing up the pyramid. They did give the Gladiators definitely a good run. And the people that came out on top are legit contenders. They're legit also physical specimens.
Are you fairly competitive in that sense, or is it an act?
Oh, no, I'm competitive. I think. But one thing I think that was a bit different for me was actually having to convey how competitive I am, because usually it's just quiet. The way I show I'm competitive is I smile, and that usually annoys people. And that's my kind of my mental advantage. But on the show, instead of smiling, it was a wee bit of, come at me. I don't think you've got this. And I'm not usually that mean.
So, is there a way for the rest of the world to watch this show, or is it only visible out in your neck of the woods?
At the moment, it's just visible out in Australia. I know people have, downloaded VPNs to try and watch it. I don't know if it actually works, but it's predominantly Australia. But there's heaps of highlights of things on social media. Gladiators Oz, if you wanted to check out myself, and also a few other CrossFitters on the show.
CrossFit is on the show. What do you mean?
CrossFitters, sorry.
CrossFitters. Yeah. I mean, there's a few. Con is another one of the Gladiators as well. It seems like you guys have got a good contingent of top tier CrossFitters that are Gladiators
I'm a
as
little,
well.
I'm a little curious with Con, because I think he's mostly known for being like one of the handsome hunks of CrossFit. So was like there any angst amongst the community that he might get like a black eye or like a twisted nose or something during the competition?
No, we're athletes, right? We know how to handle our bodies.
That's
If
true.
anything, it was all about his hair and his beautiful locks during the show.
Mike, you and him actually look very similar. You know that?
Oh, that's a huge compliment. He's very, very, very handsome man. So I'll take it for sure. For sure. Alethea, I'm curious, when you decided to do the Gladiator show, was that more spontaneous? Like, how did that come about? I mean, you're not that far removed from having a child, right?
Yeah. No, you know what? So the casting director for the show actually just slid into the DMs and said, hey, we're holding trials for this as I think it was a competition or action sport show. And I'm like, oh, that piques my interest. Yeah, what is it? Gave me a call, said it was for Gladiators. And I told him, oh, you do realize I've just had a baby. I'm really old. I'm not sure if I'm right for the show. And he goes, no, just come anyway. Come and give it a go. I was like, okay. And the day of the actual fitness trial, I said to my partner, oh, I don't think I'll go. I don't want to put myself out there. I'm a bit scared. And he goes, come on, listen to yourself. This is a new adventure. This is not you. Like, I think that was a bit of postpartum insecurity hitting me. And he said, go. And I showed up. I did relatively well in the testing. I would think I was 7 months postpartum. And then a few weeks later, got the call, hey, we want you on the show. I think I just cried. I just cried. I was shocked, one, and then also I'm like, how is this happening? This is maternity leave? What? Really? I'm a gladiator? So yeah, that's how it all came about. And then filming happened really quickly.
Yeah, you're to me, you're like the most interesting athlete that there is. It's like, all right, I was a gymnast. I was competing at the Commonwealth Games. Then I go to the CrossFit Games. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm gonna compete in weightlifting now at the Commonwealth Games as well. And now I'm performing on like a show that I watched that was iconic when I was a child. It's yeah, you're just really cool, Alethea. That's all. That's all there is to it. Great smile
I
and super
wouldn't
cool.
say cool. Uh, I'm hoping my kid, when she's 16, thinks I'm still cool.
She will. She will.
I
But
have one more
I think what.
question. Oh, sorry, go
Oh
ahead.
yeah, sure.
Well, I was just gonna ask because when you said you went through casting, and I would imagine that the casting isn't only focused around your athletic prowess, but is there like a drama element to it? And did you have that, or did you need to be coached through that?
No, so when you do this the testing, and then you do a wee bit of a screen interview to see if you can, convey yourself in a way that's suitable. That's coming out of my shell. I mean, people probably don't know this, but when I was a little kid back in the day, I used to do like the school productions, and I used to get the lead in singing roles in school productions. So I feel like being on Gladiators, it put everything into one. It was, a wee bit of acting going on, which I'm not the best at, but we gave it a good nudge. Wee bit of acting. It was the gymnastics element, which was my character, the flipping kind of Electra. And it was the physical prowess, and that's the weightlifting, the CrossFit, the ability to just put everything in and keep going. Everything
Basically, you've
just
been training for
molded
this your
into
whole
being a
life.
gladiator.
Yeah, your whole life has been preparing you for this moment.
It absolutely did. I didn't even know it, and I'm so grateful that opportunity came. But I think anything that I've done so far, like getting into CrossFit, getting into weightlifting, was a whole other story. It's all because I put myself on the line and said, "Okay, I'll try." Scared, not knowing what was going to come of it. I am actually an introvert. But if you don't put yourself out there, you're not going to get the opportunities that are waiting for you. So what do they say? Good things happen out of discomfort, right? Growth comes from discomfort. And I think I'm constantly trying to put myself in positions that'll just test me, and usually good things come of it.
Love it. Is there anticipation of more than one season, or is this kind of one and done?
We're waiting to hear back to see how it all goes. We're hoping there's a second season. But the TV world is a hard world to be in. It's a whole different beast. But we definitely can't wait to see what happens.
Love it. Well, good luck with that. Hopefully, we'll be able to at least follow along on your Instagram page for some of the highlights from the shows if we can't, get a VPN to watch shows while they're going on. But I have
Dave,
one more little. Go ahead,
I
Mike.
got it before I forget it, just because I had this in my mind, and it's like a big wish. But at our camp that we do, we always have demos of like athletes. If we could build a gladiator event and bring you out, and then maybe
it's got to be joust over the pit. That's the easy. We have.
I mean, this would be the greatest way to start camps. Sunday night, when everybody arrives, all the participants, and we generally do a demo. We've had break dancers and rings and high bar and everything. But if we did a gladiator challenge, and you come out as Electra, travel from Australia to dominate and take on one of the Power Monkey gladiators. I'm putting up Rika from South Africa. I think she'd give you a run for your money, but the rest of the team, I think you would dominate.
I second this, Dave.
Right, the joust seems like it would be the one that everybody could rally around. We already have kind of set up. We just got to put like plank of wood across and then get all the gear for it. Alethea, would you be up for that? Help us.
Oh, we would definitely be up for a challenge. What did I say? Always say yes to a challenge.
All right, we're gonna put it on the agenda for all the people on the fence about coming to Power Monkey Camp in the fall. We have I don't know what gladiator we'll call it. Australian, American, Power Monkey Gladiator.
It's Power Monkey Gladiator.
All right, it's happening. It's happening. We're gonna add it to the
International Gladiator.
It's on.
I do have one
Galactic
technique
Gladiator.
question for you because, scrolling through your feed, it's obvious that, you still have such a high level gymnastics understanding and your body awareness. And watching you do like a stalder press into a beautiful strict handstand push up, the emphasis that you put on good technique is evident in still how you move. From your experience as an athlete at a highest level, someone who's gone through, yeah, we're putting the stalder press up on the screen right now. That is no joke. That is still very challenging to do into
The
this little
handstand
sequence of
push-up is sick.
strict freestanding handstand push-up into a full pirouette, beautifully done, back into, oh, awesome. That
We've been
downward
a lack of control.
it is awesome. Super impressive. But the question is, from you being in this sport for a number of years now and seeing athletes of all different backgrounds, highest level, people just going through foundation, just going through their first open, where do you think people don't spend enough time? Where do you think people could spend a little bit more time in terms of building foundation that would have the greatest value for them later down the road? From your perspective, where do you think is a missing link for a lot of people on the technical side?
I program for our gym a lot of the gymnastics, and a lot of the gymnastics stuff that we do, we always include strict. Strict is first and foremost, strict and body positioning holds. If you can't maintain a hold or body position, isometric hold static, how are we expected to hold it when we're doing dynamic movement? So for me, we always drill strict before dynamic. We do allow dynamic taught in a safe manner. So even though you're doing dynamic, it's all controlled positioning. So for me, it's all about body control. You can't do a strict pull-up. You have no business doing kipping. Let's protect the shoulders, protect the joint. Let's do it for longevity. What people don't actually know is that, yes, I might be able to do like 60, 70 chest to bars. However, I only bring it out around 6 weeks before competition or before the open. Everything I do, even workouts, is all strict. You do strict.
So in your actual
lines.
WODs, you're doing mostly strict as well.
I do mostly strict purely because I am older and my elbows and shoulders don't like a lot of the kipping movements. So I save it for when it's needed. Mm-hmm. But there is value in doing strict rope climbs. There is value in doing strict rope pulls. I hadn't done muscle ups in a long time because I have shoulders that I need to protect. I managed to do like 18 the other day after not having done any for I don't know how many months, purely because you work the strict. There is value in strict. Granted, there's technique work that needs to be done. So I still do drills, but I don't do a lot of the dynamic movement. So yeah, strict work and positioning work. Take the time to nail that and feel your body, know how to make corrections with your body, and it pays off in like tenfold when you're doing your CrossFit work.
Thank you for that. It was a little plug. We'll pay you off for saying that when the podcast is over. How do you get buy-in for people to actually do that? That's the question we get all the time because that's what we preach in our courses and at camp. And, it's so important to have a good foundation. But then you get, type A personality CrossFitters, 20 of them in a room who want to go balls to the wall 100 miles an hour to beat the person next to them. How do you get them to actually buy into those important foundational pieces?
So I do drill the strict and all that. However, every now and then we will give them a little bit of a play with dynamic to keep the carrot there. It's safe play. So you want to do a muscle up? Can you do a swing to chest to rings? We give them the dynamic work to keep the carrot there. Mm-hmm. And if they do it and they do it poorly, they're like, how do I do it better? Well, you know what? If you go back and fix your strict, that movement's going to get better. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like to dangle a carrot with the actual movement, but then go back.
Love it. So I think you are absolutely in line to come out to Power Monkey Camp and run our joust station. And I mean, the fact that we haven't done this already, it really bothers me. But there's another athlete from out in your area, Monette. I don't know if you know Monette from, she was on the New Zealand gymnastics team as well. She was closer towards the 2008 Olympic period, so a little bit after you. But she's coming out to camp in the future too. So we're trying to get a little bit more athletes from out in your area to be part of our team. So whenever you have it in the schedule, we'd love for you to come out to Power Monkey Camp and see what we got going on. Besides the jousting, we'd love for you to be part of the team.
Yeah, I think it's actually on my bucket list of things to do. So I need to make it happen.
We'll make it happen for sure.
Invites there, and just be ready to get drafted from both sides of the equation. The weightlifters and the gymnasts will be calling dibs for you. And just I do
like
like
another
to throw it
Vanessa
out
McCoy.
there. Yeah, the gymnastics staff is 50-50 guy girl. Like we really we like
Awesome.
to represent across the board. The gymnasts, they're probably going to try to get you over there because they need some help on the ladies' side. They're very male dominant right now.
I'd like to
Not true.
make a suggestion if when Alethea comes out. So Alethea, we have a party at the end of the week, and it's always costume themed. I would like to
Ooh.
propose that the camp that she comes out to, that the theme is gladiators, and that's what everybody dresses
Ooh.
up as for that night.
Sure. Super easy.
Their own personality, their own personal gladiator name.
100%.
What they
Yes.
think the gladiator is.
Yeah.
What we have to do is like just create names and give them their personalities, and you have to show up.
Yeah.
Hey, this is just who you are, Mike. You got it. You're gonna be Blaze. All right, figure it out.
Pinto.
Who's Blaze?
Ooh.
right.
Makeup and all. Let's go.
You know, funny thing is I can, like, we're talking about Gladiator and I'm immediately in the couch that we had when I was like 7 years old. I can picture exactly where I am in the living room watching it. And Dave, when you talked about the from up and shooting the like the tennis ball gun or whatever,
Oh yeah.
that's the first image that came to mind before you said that. I was already thinking about it. So it is funny how nostalgic and
Great show.
impressionable that show is, even for me.
Alethea, we have a couple last minute questions for you if you're up for it. Quick hitting
Yeah,
ones.
absolutely.
This one might be the most well-rounded athlete to answer this question, so I'm curious what direction you're going to go with it, but we like to have a little running tally here. What sport or discipline do you prefer, weightlifting or gymnastics?
Ooh,
I appreciate the hesitation.
that's a hard one. That is a hard one. Oh, I can't choose one, but can I explain why?
Sure.
Both require millimeter perfect precision, and I like the pursuit to try and chase that perfect lift or that perfect skill. So for me, chasing perfection and never possibly attaining it, that's what I like about both.
I'll take the answer. You know that there's been now two people, yourself and one other person, that has deferred to answer, and it's Mike. Mike didn't even answer. He said that he's so our only two. I'll take option C. Are both on the podcast, so you're in good company here. Question number 2: anyone that you think would be a good interview for us to have on the podcast? Maybe someone another gladiator, someone you've come across recently, someone that might be a good interview.
Oh, that's a good question. Anyone that's a good interview? There's so many people. Man, you put me on the spot here. I don't want to play favorites. Oh, far out.
We always offer to the follow-up. With no pressure if you need to email it so that you don't hurt anybody's feelings. But if somebody comes to your mind, just first name.
We need to stop offering that.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a cop.
I'm actually going to support my Australian Gladiator cast. So I actually think any one of us CrossFitters, there would be Khan, and Caitlin Van Zyl is actually another good one. Would be brilliant. And Harriet Roberts. Either one of those three are brilliant to have on.
All right, awesome. We will work on getting one of them on and see if they can give us any other insight into what's going on in the gladiator world out there. Last one. If you are a book reader, is there a book that you're into right now that you'd like to pass along? If not, a TV show, aside from Gladiators, or a movie that you've watched that is worth checking out?
So I am absolutely obsessed with the All Blacks, the rugby team.
Yeah, sure.
Ooh.
So any book that gets released by the All Blacks or coaching staff, I am all over. Legacy is a great one to read. There's Dan Carter's books, which are absolutely amazing, and Richie McCaw. So those are my huge favorites to read about. Oh, sorry. And I move more into the coaching side of things, and Steve Hanson's book, If You're a Coach, is a great one to read. Great one to read, applicable to life.
It's funny,
Dave,
before we started the podcast,
after this.
Yeah, we were asking whether or not you had any rugby background because of the tackling that happens in Gladiators, and you brought up your judo friend who was talking, but it seemed like maybe you had a little bit of rugby background. Maybe it was just from watching the All Blacks all those years.
Yeah, but watching the All Blacks, I'm Fijian too, so it's in my blood.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the time. It was awesome to actually catch up. You are really an inspiration for not only all the moms out there, but all the other athletes that are trying to achieve great things. Continue to keep kicking ass. We'll watch hopefully as much as we can of what you got going on. And the offer is legitimate. We want you to come to camp. We want you to see what we got going on in person when you have the chance. So hopefully we'll see you in person in Tennessee.
Yeah, would absolutely love it. And thanks for having me, guys. And thanks for letting me share my share my bits and pieces and stories.
Of course.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Where can people follow along with your journey?
I'm pretty basic, just on Instagram mainly at Alethea_Boon, and same as on Facebook. But hopefully I'll be able to connect with everyone through there.
Perfect. Alethea, thank you again so much. We appreciate the time today and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah, thanks heaps, guys. Appreciate it.
Take care. For all the listeners out there, please be sure to head over to powermonkeyfitness.com for services and upcoming events. You can check out our Instagram pages for regular teaching and technical content at Power Monkey Fitness, at Dave Durante, and at Mike Service. On behalf of Power Monkey Fitness, we're your hosts. I'm Dave Durante with my co-host Mike Service. And until next time, thank you all for listening.